Have you ever had a dream so vivid, so real, that when it came true, days or weeks later, a chill ran down your spine? Or perhaps you've felt a sudden, inexplicable knot in your stomach right before receiving terrible news. We begin tonight's journey with a story that is as heartbreaking as it is profound. A young girl, no older than 7, who began drawing pictures of a plane with a broken wing. She drew it over and over, with a frantic energy her parents couldn't understand. She told them her daddy was on that plane. 2 weeks later, her father, an airline pilot, died in a crash when his plane suffered catastrophic wing failure. This moment, and countless others like it, experienced by people all over the world, serves as our entry point into one of the deepest questions humanity can ask. Are these experiences mere tragic coincidence, or can our minds, in some mysterious way, actually glimpse the future? We pull back the curtain on this mystery. We are not venturing into the realm of fantasy or superstition. Instead, we are following the evidence, guided by pioneering scientists whose decades of meticulous research into precognitive dreams and gut feelings are fundamentally challenging our understanding of time itself. We will introduce you to researchers like Julia Mossbridge and Dean Radin, whose work is forcing the scientific community to reconsider what is possible. This journey will explore peer-reviewed experiments, startling statistical findings, and even declassified government research, all of which suggest that we might not just be predicting the future, but in a very real sense, we might be able to remember it. Our exploration is guided by credible, grounded figures, not mystics or charlatans. These are individuals with impeccable academic credentials, who have dared to ask questions that many of their peers have dismissed. First, we meet Julia Mossbridge, a cognitive neuroscientist affiliated with Northwestern University and the University of San Diego. Her interest in this field is not merely academic, it's deeply personal. Since she was a child, Dr. Mossbridge has documented her own startlingly accurate precognitive dreams. Imagine the internal conflict. As a trained scientist dedicated to logic and material evidence, she was personally experiencing a phenomenon that her own field often labels as impossible. This duality didn't lead her to abandon science. It drove her to apply its rigorous methods to understand her own experiences. Her work seeks to build a bridge between the subjective, personal experience of precognition and the objective, verifiable world of neuroscience. Her work is perfectly complemented by that of Dean Radin, the chief scientist at the Institute of Noetic Sciences, IONS. Radin is a figure who has spent over 3 decades on the frontiers of consciousness research. With a background that includes appointments at Princeton University and SRI International, and a history of working on advanced R&D for places like AT&T Bell Labs. As a parapsychologist, he has dedicated his career to designing elegant and rigorous experiments to test the very phenomena that people like Mossbridge have experienced firsthand. Radin's mission is to take these extraordinary claims out of the realm of anecdote and ground them in the world of measurable, scientific evidence. He is the one who asks, if this is real, how can we detect it? How can we measure it? Together, these two researchers, the intuitive experiencer and the meticulous experimentalist, are forging a new scientific paradigm. To truly appreciate the scientific case for precognition, we must journey back to the mid-1990s and step inside Dean Radin's laboratory. Here, we witness one of the most elegant and compelling experiments in this field. Picture this. A volunteer is sitting comfortably in a quiet room, their scalp covered in a web of sensors connected to an EEG machine, which monitors the electrical activity of their brain. In front of them is a blank computer screen. The experiment is simple. The computer is programmed to randomly select an image and display it for a few seconds. The selection process is truly random, governed by the unpredictable decay of a radioactive isotope. something impossible for the subject or even the researchers to guess. The images themselves fall into two distinct categories. Some are calming and neutral, like a picture of a pastoral landscape or a piece of fruit. Others are highly emotional and disturbing, depicting scenes of violence, autopsies, or eroticism. The goal is to see how the brain reacts to these different stimuli. Of course, the brain shows a significant spike in activity after seeing a disturbing image. That's expected. But Radin was looking for something else. He analyzed the moments before the image was displayed. What he found was astonishing, and it would shake the foundations of classical neuroscience. The data revealed that the brain showed a statistically significant spike in activity seconds before the disturbing image appeared on the screen. Let that sink in. The brain was reacting to an emotional event before it consciously experienced it, and even before the computer had made its random selection. Skeptics immediately cried foul, suggesting it must be a statistical fluke or a flaw in the design. But this wasn't a one-off finding. This experiment has since been replicated over 30 times in various labs around the world. The result is consistent, providing the first measurable, physiological proof that the human body can react to an event before it happens. It's a phenomenon that Radin and others have termed presentiment, a feeling of the future. How could the brain possibly know what's coming? How could it react to a random event that hasn't happened yet? The explanation that is emerging doesn't come from biology, but from the most fundamental and mind-bending area of physics: quantum mechanics. To understand this, we need to explore a phenomenon that Albert Einstein famously called spooky action at a distance: quantum entanglement. In the quantum world, two particles can become linked in such a way that they behave as a single system, no matter how far apart they are. If you measure a property of one particle, you instantly know the corresponding property of its entangled twin, whether it's across the lab or across the galaxy. This connection seems to defy our classical understanding of space. But what if this principle doesn't just work across space, but also across time? A growing number of physicists are now exploring the idea that time itself may not be a fundamental aspect of reality, but an emergent property of quantum entanglement. Some theories propose that entanglement can exist between particles that never coexist at the same time. The theory proposed to explain presentiment is as elegant as it is profound. Your consciousness may be quantum entangled with itself in the future. Think of your life as a single, continuous entity existing across space-time. This quantum connection could allow information about a future event, like the shock of seeing a disturbing image, to flow backward through time. Much like a ripple moving backward in a pond, this information isn't a clear picture or a voice. It's a subtle physiological signal. What you experience in the lab as a spike in brain activity isn't a prediction. It feels more like a memory of something that has yet to occur. Your future self experiences the shock, and that information travels back to your present self through this timeless, entangled connection. The evidence for this future sensing ability extends far beyond brainwaves. While the IG spikes were the first clue, researchers soon discovered that the entire human body acts like an antenna for future events. This phenomenon, which they call presentiment, or, more formally, predictive anticipatory activity, PA, has been documented across our entire physiology. In a landmark meta-analysis reviewing 26 independent studies from 7 different laboratories, scientists Julia Mossbridge and Dean Radin, among others, found overwhelming evidence. Measures like heart rate, the electrical conductivity of the skin, which reflects emotional sweating, and even the dilation of our pupils have all been shown to change in statistically significant ways seconds before a person is exposed to an emotional stimulus. Imagine the experiment again. You are not only hooked up to an EEG, but also to a heart rate monitor and sensors on your fingertips, measuring skin conductance. Seconds before the shocking image appears before your brain even registers, the pre-stimulus spike your heart rate subtly shifts. Your palms begin to sweat just a tiny bit more. Your pupils widen. Your body is unconsciously bracing for impact. It's an early warning system operating beneath the threshold of conscious awareness. The odds against these combined results being a chance fluke are astronomical, calculated at over 10 million to 1. This isn't a parlor trick. It's a robust, repeatable phenomenon. It suggests that our entire physiology is in a constant, subtle dialogue with our immediate future, constantly preparing our organism for what is about to happen. Have you ever felt a sudden wave of anxiety for no apparent reason, only to receive a distressing phone call moments later? What we dismiss as a coincidence might just be our body's antenna picking up a signal from the future. This brings us to a radical reframing of one of our most common, yet misunderstood experiences: intuition. What if those gut feelings, those inexplicable hunches, and those sudden flashes of insight are not just random noise, but echoes of a powerful evolutionary tool? Consider our distant ancestors living in a world fraught with immediate dangers. The ability to sense future threats, an approaching predator hiding in the tall grass, a coming flash flood, or the location of a hidden source of waterwood have offered a profound survival advantage. The individual who had a bad feeling about a certain path and chose another, avoiding an ambush, was the one who lived to pass on their genes. The one who had a sudden hunch to look behind a specific rock, finding a life-saving herb, was the one whose lineage continued. Julia Mossbridge's research suggests that most people possess some level of this precognitive ability, but our modern society has conditioned us to dismiss it. From a young age, we are taught to value rational, linear thinking and to distrust feelings that we cannot logically explain. We are told that intuition is delusional, that gut feelings are indigestion, and that premonitions are just coincidences. We have, in essence, been trained to ignore a fundamental part of our own internal guidance system. Perhaps intuition is not a mystical gift, but simply a form of quantum sensing that evolution has built into our very consciousness. It's the whisper of our future self, entangled with our present, offering a gentle nudge in the right direction. It's the subtle, bodily wisdom of presentiment bubbling up to the surface of our awareness. By learning to listen to these quiet signals again, we may be reclaiming one of the most potent survival tools we possess. Our journey now takes an even more radical and mind-bending turn. We have explored the idea that we can passively perceive the future. But what if the future could actively influence the past? This is the concept of retrocausality, and it challenges the most fundamental rule we live by: that cause always precedes effect. In 2011, the respected social psychologist Daryl Bemmy, then at Cornell University, published a controversial but landmark paper titled "Feeling the Future." In a top-tier psychology journal, his 9 experiments were elegant and simple. In one of the most compelling studies, he demonstrated that a future event could seemingly reach back in time to improve a person's performance on a task they had already completed. Here's how it worked. College students were shown a list of 48 words and then given a surprise recall test, writing down as many as they could remember. After the test was over and their answers were locked in, a computer would randomly select half of the original 48 words and have the students practice and type them out. The astonishing result was that the students were significantly better at recalling the words they would later be asked to practice. It was as if the future practice session was retroactively strengthening their memory of those words in the past test. The effect was influencing the cause. This mind-bending concept is not just a psychological curiosity. It finds theoretical support in the strange world of quantum physics. Experiments in quantum mechanics have shown that observing a particle in the present can change its history, influencing its state in the past. The strict, linear flow of cause and effect that we take for granted in our macroscopic world may not be a fundamental rule of reality at the quantum level. Bem's study suggests that this retrocausal influence might not be limited to subatomic particles, but could extend to human cognition and memory as well. If the future can influence the past, it begs an even more profound question. Can we influence the future? Moving beyond passively receiving information from what's to come, we now explore mounting evidence that consciousness is not a mere spectator, but an active participant in shaping reality. The research in this area shows a fascinating pattern. Precognitive and other psychic effects are not static. They are significantly stronger when a person is emotionally invested in the outcome or holds a strong, focused intention. In remote viewing studies, for example, viewers often report more accurate sessions when the target has a strong emotional resonance for them. In distant healing experiments, the positive effects are often correlated with the healer's degree of compassion and focus. This suggests that our consciousness is not just a passive radio receiver, picking up random signals from the future. It's more like a tunable broadcast antenna. Our hopes, our fears, our desires, and our intentions may act as a focusing lens, amplifying our connection to a particular future. This framework transforms our role in the universe. We are not simply being carried along the river of time, helplessly observing the scenery as it passes. Instead, our emotional state and our intentions act like a rudder, allowing us to steer, however subtly, toward the currents of potential futures that are most aligned with our inner state. We may not be able to control the river, but we might have a say in which tributary we navigate. This elevates us from mere spectators of time to co-creators of our own timeline. Thus far, our journey has focused on the individual's connection to time, but the phenomenon expands, scaling up from the personal to the collective. If individual consciousness is entangled with itself across time, what happens when multiple consciousnesses are entangled with each other? Quantum entanglement could be the physical mechanism behind the deep, almost telepathic connection often reported between loved ones, such as the uncanny experiences of twins who feel each other's pain from miles away, or the phenomenon of distant healing, where positive intention appears to influence the health of another person regardless of physical proximity. This interconnectedness doesn't stop with pairs of individuals. It appears to scale up to the global level, and the most compelling evidence for this comes from the Global Consciousness Project, GCP. Started at Princeton University in 1998. The project maintains a network of random number generators, RNGs, placed all over the world. These devices, often called eggs, are essentially electronic coin flippers, producing streams of completely random ones and zeros, 24/7. Over decades, the data should average out to pure chance. However, researchers have found that during moments of intense shared global focus, these random generators show statistically significant deviations from randomness. The most dramatic example occurred on September 11, 2001. In the hours during and immediately after the attacks, as millions, then billions, of minds around the world focused on this single, emotionally charged event, the output of the RNGs became significantly less random. It was as if the collective shock and grief of humanity created a ripple in the fabric of reality, a coherent field of consciousness that subtly influenced the behavior of these electronic devices. This suggests that when millions of us focus on one event with shared emotion, our collective consciousness can create a measurable effect in the physical world. If our minds are capable of these extraordinary feats, perceiving the future, influencing the past, and connecting with a global consciousness, then how is this physically possible? Where, in the brain, is the hardware that allows us to process these quantum effects. Neuroimaging studies are beginning to provide some clues. Brain scans show that areas like the default mode network and regions in the right hemisphere become particularly active during intuitive and meditative tasks. These are the parts of our brain associated with holistic thinking, creativity, and self-reflection, rather than linear, logical analysis. But the theory goes deeper, down to the cellular level. We are now exploring the radical idea that consciousness itself may emerge from quantum computations, occurring within the very structure of our brain cells. The Penrose-Hameroff or theory suggests that tiny cylindrical protein structures, called microtubules, which form the cytoskeleton of our neurons, could act as biological quantum computers. These microtubules may be able to sustain quantum states long enough to process information in a way that transcends the classical, binary computations of a normal computer. Furthermore, we are investigating the potential role of the pineal gland. Often called the third eye in mystical traditions, this tiny gland in the center of the brain contains microcrystals that have piezoelectric properties, meaning they can convert mechanical and electromagnetic energy into electrical signals. This has led some to theorize that the pineal gland could act as a biological quantum antenna, a receiver for the subtle quantum information that flows through the universe. Our minds may not just be thinking with our brains. They may be sophisticated quantum computers designed by nature to operate outside the normal constraints of linear time. Our journey now takes us from the frontiers of academic research into the shadowy world of declassified government programs. Here we find one of the most stunning and well-documented examples of consciousness operating outside the known laws of physics: the phenomenon of remote viewing. For over 20 years, from the 1970s to 1995, the CIA and the Stanford Research Institute, SRI, secretly studied the ability of trained individuals to perceive and describe distant, unknown locations. The program, later codenamed Stargate, was born out of concern that the Soviet Union was making significant progress in psychic espionage. The protocol was strict. A viewer would be given a set of coordinates, or a cue, and asked to describe the corresponding geographical location, which was completely unknown to them. The declassified results, which are now publicly available, are staggering. The viewers were consistently able to describe key features of the target site's buildings, landscapes, activities with an accuracy far beyond what could be attributed to chance. They described Soviet weapons facilities, hidden submarines, and even the health of American hostages in Iran. But what is most remarkable for our investigation is an unexpected finding that emerged from the data. These remote viewers often didn't just describe the target locations in the present moment. They would frequently describe significant events that were about to happen at those locations' future events. It became clear that the very faculty of consciousness that allows perception to transcend vast distances of space also allows it to perceive across the landscape of time. The declassified Stargate files provide compelling real-world evidence that the human mind is not locked within the skull, nor is it confined to the present moment. We return now from secret government projects to one of the most universal and accessible human experiences: dreaming. There is an ancient belief, shared across countless cultures, that dreams are a primary gateway for receiving information from beyond our normal waking senses. Today, modern research is beginning to suggest that this age-old wisdom is correct, and that dreaming may be one of the most natural ways we access precognitive information. During REM sleep, the state in which most vivid dreaming occurs, the analytical, filtering parts of our brain, like the prefrontal cortex, become much less active. This quieting of our inner skeptic and rational gatekeeper may allow our consciousness to become more receptive to the subtle, quantum signals that carry information about the future. The noise of our daily thoughts subsides, and we can hear the whispers from our future self. Researchers and experiencers have noted that precognitive dreams often have a distinct quality. They are frequently described as being unusually vivid, emotionally intense, and more real than a typical dream. They often leave a lasting impression upon waking, a sense of significance that is hard to shake. It's the emotional charge of the future event that seems to help the signal punch through into our dream consciousness. The good news is that this is an ability we can cultivate. By developing better dream recall through practices like keeping a dream journal by your bedside, we can start to pay more attention to the nightly narratives of our minds. By learning to spot the unique signature of a potentially precognitive dream, we can begin to tap into one of the most natural and accessible ways to develop our own innate intuitive abilities. Have you ever been thinking of an old friend you haven't spoken to in years, only to have them call you that very same day? Or have you had a pressing question on your mind, and then you open a book to a random page and find the exact answer you were looking for? The psychologist Carl Jung called these events synchronicities, meaningful coincidences that seem too perfect, too intelligently orchestrated to be mere chance. From a purely materialistic worldview, these are nothing more than confirmation bias. We simply notice the hits and forget the misses. But from a quantum perspective, these moments take on a profound new meaning. They may not be accidents at all. Instead, they could be moments when our consciousness, through its focused intention and emotional state, subtly influences the probability of events, aligning circumstances in a way that is meaningful to us. It's as if our inner world and the outer world are in a constant dialogue. When we hold a clear intention or a deep emotional question, we create a kind of resonant field around us. This field can then attract or align with corresponding events in the physical world. It's not about magically making things happen, but about increasing the probability that certain things will. Researchers have noted that people who cultivate clear intention and emotional coherence through practices like meditation and mindfulness often report an increase in the frequency of synchronicities in their lives. This suggests that we can learn to work with the universe, to co-create our reality by drawing the right people, the right information, and the perfect opportunities to us at exactly the right moment. Our exploration, which began with a spark of electricity in the brain, now culminates in a radical re-examination of identity itself. If our consciousness can access the future and influence the past, if it is interconnected with others and the cosmos at large, then what does that truly mean for the self we call me? We can now look at phenomena like past life memories and near-death experiences, NDEs. Through this new quantum lens, children who report vivid memories of a past life, often with details that are later verified, might not be remembering a personal, linear reincarnation. Instead, their consciousness, being more fluid and open, might be accessing a collective quantum memory field, a sort of cosmic internet of experiences. Similarly, consider near-death experiences. People from all walks of life who have been clinically dead and resuscitated report remarkably similar experiences. Leaving their bodies, traveling through a tunnel of light, and undergoing a panoramic life review. Crucially, many also report seeing glimpses of their future, events that later come to pass. These experiences strongly suggest that consciousness is not generated by the brain and is not confined to a single life. Rather, it appears to be part of a multidimensional, eternal whole that exists outside the normal flow of time. The self is not a noun, but a verba process of awareness flowing through the infinite ocean of the cosmos. As our journey together this evening concludes, let's take a moment to reflect on the profound and empowering vision of consciousness that has emerged. The evidence we've explored, from rigorous laboratory experiments to declassified government research, paints a picture of humanity that is far grander than the one we've been taught. We are not merely biological machines, living out a predetermined script in a cold, meaningless universe. We are active, quantum participants in a living, responsive cosmos. Our gut feelings, our vivid dreams, our flashes of intuition, these are not random noise to be dismissed. They are signals from a deeper reality, whispers from our own expanded, timeless nature. The research suggests that we stand at the threshold of a great awakening, a collective recognition of our innate ability to connect with the past, to sense the future, and to actively influence the present. This isn't about becoming a superhero or predicting the stock market. It's about something far more important. It's about learning to listen to the subtle wisdom of our own bodies and minds. It's about recognizing the synchronicities that guide our paths. It's about understanding that our intentions and our emotional states matter, that they are constantly shaping the world we experience. The first step in this awakening is simply to pay attention. When you feel that inexplicable gut feeling, don't immediately dismiss it. Pause and listen. When you have a dream that feels intensely real and significant, write it down. When a meaningful coincidence occurs, acknowledge it with a sense of wonder. By simply honoring these experiences, you begin to strengthen that connection. You are reclaiming a birthright that our modern world has tried to make us forget. As you drift to sleep tonight, you are invited to consider this. You are not just a body resting in a bed. You are a vast, multidimensional explorer in the infinite ocean of awareness. You possess the potential to learn to navigate the currents of time, and with love and intention, to co-create the world you dream of. What are your own experiences with these phenomena? Have you ever had a precognitive dream or a gut feeling that came true? Please share your stories in the comments below. Your experience is a valuable piece of this incredible puzzle. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the nature of time and consciousness. I wish you all good health, deep insights, and beautiful dreams. And if this exploration has expanded your sense of what is possible, please consider subscribing to the channel to continue this journey of discovery with us.